Welcome back, my clumsy cooks. Today we're gonna prepare some bread because we're a few days short from Christmas time, and food, bread, it's all necessary. This is gonna be the first video. We're gonna be seeing how to make some spaghetti and stuff like that, I guess. So, right now, what do we need? Okay, let's break it down. Right here I have the magic white powder. I have some sugar. We're obviously not going to use this much. And we have some oil. We're also not going to use this much. Well, let's get down to this. We're going to need a couple of teaspoons of yeast. As a matter of fact, I think this is way too much, but the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons. And 2 teaspoons is what we're going to throw in. So there goes 1, and again I'm gonna show you this little guy. Have I told you that I just love this little guy, yeast over here? It's so wonderful, it's so amazing. So let's throw it down there. We're gonna activate this little guy with around 50 milliliters of water. It obviously has to be not exactly hot, but a little bit So around 50 milliliters has to be like 1/3 of what I had. I think I threw in too much, but no problem. Now, yeast needs to feed on something. And that's where the sugar comes in. We need 1 teaspoon, sorry. My bad, guys, it was actually a tablespoon, so that means we're gonna be using like 1.5, I guess, teaspoons. Now we have to make sure that this is mixed roughly. So let's give it a little stir. Let's make sure that all the yeast is able to take on the sugar. Now we need to use a tablespoon of oil. On the recipe it calls for olive oil, but you can use any oil that you prefer, whichever gives it the best flavor in your opinion. I'm just following the recipe here for the first time. Not making any weird changes because, yeah, why not? And we of course have to stir this. So let's keep on mixing. Let's make sure that the little yeast is able to feed on everything. Now is a very good moment to tell you that you should do it on a smaller one, because on a bigger one we're gonna drop in a cup of wheat flour, and we're gonna start working like we're supposed to. Let's open a little hole in here and let's drop in I'm pretty sure it's all the mix, but I'll double check. So yep, open the little hole in here and drop in the mixture. Don't be shy, drop it all. Now we're gonna start working on this with our hands, so let's get to it. You can always use a little bit of oil in your hands so that you don't get all sticky. However, I'm not the kind of guy who does that, because at the end of the day it has to, you see, it has to form itself, so it's gonna end up getting out of your hands. We just have to work it all the way through. You can already smell the yeast mixing with the flour. It's an amazing smell. I really love this. It's one of my favorite smells, because you know it's going to be bread at the end of the process. And in my opinion, there's nothing happier than bread. Well, yeah, any food actually. All the food, I mean. but just keep on mixing. Now I have to say, my friends, that this recipe is very odd because twice it called for the little tablespoon of sugar. However, it never called for the tablespoon of oil, so I had to guess they had that mistake. And it doesn't say what to do with the extra 100 milliliters of water, so I guess if you're running on a very dry mix, I guess that you have to add it in order to make sure that everything here becomes one piece only. But again, I'm just experimenting here, so don't listen to me. That's why you have me here, right? I'll make sure that it goes well. If not, you'll know how not to do it. Remember to keep your water on a little bit of a higher temperature, not really hot, but again, we don't want it to be cold. So right now I have this little monkey brain. You see, it's kind of the consistency that I guess we want in here. But I am thinking about adding a little bit more of oil, and it seems that we still need a little bit more of water. Also, I wanted to show you the kind of move that we want is to do this in order to grab the little bits of powder that remain around on the bowl. You can notice from this it's still a little bit dry, and pretty sure we want it to be a little bit not so dry. However, something important here, something very good in here, let me clean my hands to show you. If I stick my finger in here, it's gonna come out rather clean, which means that we're almost there. So just like I mentioned, guys, I'm gonna drop in a little bit more of oil. I hope this is not too much. And I dropped it in the middle so I can start, doing this. Drop it in there. Make sure that it gets completely soaking. That's right. You just gotta love how this comes up. Looks like it's not going to, but then suddenly you end up with something like this. Now remember, the more you obviously touch the mass, the hotter it gets. And in order for the little yeast to help the mass grow, we need to not have it as hot as it could. So let's give it a moment to cool down. Let's breathe a little bit and let's add a little bit more of water because it's still a little bit dry. Now the amount of oil is just perfect. It's not too oily. It's yeah, I will say it's perfect. Now let's just break it open on some parts to make sure that there's not wheat in there that didn't mix. Let's twist it and things like that. We just want to make sure that there's no pockets of wheat flour that didn't mix in there. Like here, let me show you. Never mind. It seemed a little bit too white, which meant that either the mass was, the wheat flour was not mixing, or something was going on. But okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm folding it. Well, I'm just bringing it like, oh crap, like that, and then I'm folding it to make sure that every part is mixed and every part gets as much oil as the other part. Remember to keep the temperature of your water on a fancy point for the yeast. There we go. It was starting to get a little bit hard. Okay, now it's starting to get a little bit too wet. We gotta be careful with this. So I'm just gonna run some, like a paper or something, to make sure that I get the bowl to a dry point. Now again, let's make sure that all of it absorbs, every part of it. That's right. Even if it breaks down, make it plain and then fold it and do the same over and over. That way we make sure that it mixes thoroughly. A moment before I show you the trick that I found on the recipe. I doubt this bread is gonna cover the whole thing, so I'm gonna prepare another batch, and we're gonna put these two batches in here and hope that it doesn't grow too much.